The morning sun burns red over the Grand Canyon's deepest crevices, where no tourist has ever ventured. Hidden among the twisted pinyon pines, a family of mountain gorillas moves silently through the underbrush. The silverback, a massive 400-pound male named Jabari, leads his troop with quiet authority. Females forage for roots while juveniles wrestle in the dust. But one curious infant, Kofi, lingers behind, captivated by a shimmering blue butterfly dancing near the cliff's edge. The canyon walls echo with the distant SC. Kofi's tiny fingers reach for the iridescent wings fluttering just beyond his grasp. The butterfly leads him further from the safety of his mother, Mara, who's preoccupied stripping bark from an aspen tree. His playful squeals muffle the first ominous sound, the crunch of dry pine needles under heavy paws. 5 spotted hyenas emerge from the thermal fog, their yellow eyes locked on the baby gorilla. Scrapper, the alpha female, licks her cracked lips as she signals her pack to fan out. Kofi finally looks up from his game to see the circle closing around him. Ream of a red-tailed hawk, nature's warning that paradise is about to shatter. The hyena's manic cackling bounces off the canyon walls, turning the serene morning into a nightmare. Kofi freezes, his dark eyes wide with primal understanding. Scrapper takes the first step forward, her powerful shoulders rolling with each calculated movement. The other hyenas mirror her, tightening the noose. Kofi's heartbeat thunders in his tiny chest as he instinctively backs toward the cliff edge. A wrong step sends pebbles cascading into the abyss. The hyena's laughter grows louder, their stained teeth gleaming in the rising sun. This isn't hunting, it's torture, and they're just getting started. Kofi's survival instinct finally kicks in. With a terrified scream, he bolts through the only gap in the hyena's formation, his small hands slapping against the rocky ground. Scrapper snarls and gives chase, her pack flowing behind her like a dark tide. The baby gorilla's lungs burn as he scrambles up a steep embankment, his nails tearing on the sandstone. Behind him, the hyena's panting grows closer, their claws scraping against stone. Kofi risks a glance back and sees death coming, jaws open wide enough to crush his skull in one bite. The chase leads them into a narrow slot canyon, the walls so close Kofi can touch both sides. His chest heaves as he squeezes through a tight passage, but the hyenas follow effortlessly. Scrapper rams her muscular body through the gap, her hot breath fogging the cool morning air. Kofi stumbles into a small clearing where the canyon dead ends at a 50-foot cliff. He spins around to face his pursuers, his back pressed against the stone. The hyenas slow to a walk, savoring the moment. Scrapper lowers her head, her black lips curling into what almost looks like a smile. The hyenas fan out in perfect formation, cutting off every possible escape. Kofi's whimpers echo off the canyon walls as he searches desperately for an exit that doesn't exist. Scrapper takes the center position while her pack mates flank both sides. They begin their ritual, snapping their jaws just inches from Kofi's face, making him flinch each time. One hyena darts in to nip at his leg, drawing first blood. The metallic scent sends the pack into a frenzy. Their laughter reaches a fever pitch as they prepare for the final act of their cruel game. Kofi presses his small body against the cliff face, his chest heaving. Tears mix with the dust on his cheeks as he lets out a piercing scream for his mother. The sound bounces through the canyon but fades into nothingness. Scrapper chooses this moment to strike, lunging straight for Kofi's throat. The baby gorilla closes his eyes, accepting the inevitable. But the killing bite never comes. Instead, an earth-shaking roar explodes through the canyon, so powerful it sends rocks tumbling from the walls. The hyenas freeze mid-attack, their bloodlust replaced by sudden terror. A massive shape emerges from the morning shadows, a full-grown male lion, his golden mane glowing in the sunrise. The beast stands between Kofi and the hyenas, his muscular body tense for battle. Scrapper snarls but takes a step back, recognizing the danger. The lion's amber eyes burn with fury as he issues another deafening roar that vibrates through the canyon. Kofi remains frozen in place, unsure whether this new predator means salvation or a different kind of death. The standoff lasts only seconds before the lion charges straight at the hyena pack. Chaos erupts as the lion's massive paws send Scrapper tumbling through the dust. The other hyenas scatter, their confidence shattered. The lion doesn't pursue them. Instead, he turns his attention to Kofi. The baby gorilla shrinks back, expecting the worst. But the lion simply studies him with an unreadable expression before turning toward the canyon entrance. In the distance, the sounds of breaking branches and deep grunts signal approaching salvation. The ground trembles as Jabari and his gorilla troop come crashing through the brush, their furious screams filling the air. Jabari charges into the clearing like a silverback avalanche, his fists pounding the earth. The lion watches calmly as the gorillas surround Kofi, forming a protective circle. Mara scoops her baby into her arms, running her fingers over his wounds. Jabari and the lion lock eyes for a long moment, two apex predators acknowledging an unspoken truce. With a final warning beat of his chest, Jabari leads his family back towards safety. The lion remains behind, watching them disappear into the canyon shadows before turning to vanish in the opposite direction. The morning sun climbs higher, revealing only scattered paw prints and a few drops of blood drying in the dust. Mane bristles limmering light. Saliva strings connect his yellowed fangs as his lips peel back in a snarl that reveals gums mottled with old scar tissue. The vibration of his growl travels up through Kofi's tiny feet, making the baby gorilla's loose belly fur tremble. Scrapper freezes mid-lunge, her front paws skidding in the dirt as the lion's thunderous roar shakes loose a cascade of pebbles from the canyon walls. As she processes this impossible predator standing in her territory, K.E.A. wildfire, as he plants himself between Kofi and the hyenas, each strand catching the. Up close, the lion is a nightmare of raw power. His right ear is split clean through the middle from some ancient battle, the edges healed into tough pink ridges. Old claw marks streak across his muzzle like pale tattoos. As he shifts position, Kofi sees the lion's ribs move beneath his coat with each calculated breath. This is no ghost, but a living weapon. A thick rope of scar tissue wraps around his left foreleg, the fur there growing in white. His amber eyes never blink as they track each twitch of the hyena pack. The air smells suddenly of wet fur and the iron tang of fresh aggression. The lion's tail lashes like a bullwhip, stirring up red dust devils. His shoulder muscles bunch beneath the fur as he takes one deliberate step forward, claws unsheathing with audible clicks. Scrapper's pack scatters backward, their usual confidence shattered. Kofi watches, mesmerized, as a drop of the lion's saliva falls and darkens the earth between his toes. The massive cat's breathing comes in deep, controlled gusts that ripple his flank fur. No panic, only cold calculation. His gaze flicks briefly to Kofi, and for a heartbeat, the baby gorilla sees something unrecognizable in those predators' eyes. The lion's massive head swings toward Scrapper, his black nose leather wrinkling as he inhales her scent. A low-frequency growl builds in his chest, making Kofi's own ribcage vibrate. The hyena alpha's ears flatten as she takes another step back, her tail curling between her legs. The lion's front paws, each larger than Kofi's entire head, knead the earth, leaving perfect impressions in the damp clay. His mane bristles with static electricity from the dry desert air, some hair standing straight out like a halo. Kofi's nostrils flare at the overwhelming musk, a cocktail of old blood, dust, and something strangely herbal. Lips peel back, revealing every stained tooth in her arsenal. The lion responds by lowering his head until his chin nearly brushes the ground, his shoulder blades rising like Scrapper's mountain peaks. Kofi sees the exact moment Scrapper realizes her mistake. The lion's pupils shrink to black pins as his hindquarters tense. The attack comes faster than a rattlesnake strike. One massive paw swipes, claws fully extended, and suddenly the air is full of flying fur and a high-pitched yelp. The other hyenas scatter as Scrapper rolls through the dirt, a fresh set of parallel wounds welling red across her ribcage. Blood droplets hang suspended in the morning light as Scrapper scrambles upright. The lion doesn't pursue. Instead, he stands his ground, his sides heaving like bellows. Kofi watches, transfixed, as a single drop of lion saliva swings from a canine before splattering on a rock. The remaining hyenas form a ragged semicircle, their usual laughter replaced by panicked whines. The lion's tongue lolls briefly, revealing the rough pink surface covered in backward-facing papillae. His breath comes in visible puffs despite the growing heat, each exhale stirring the fine hairs on Kofi's arms. The desert itself seems to hold its breath. Through the canyon, the unmistakable chest beating of an approaching silverback. Kofi's heart leaps as he recognizes Jabari's distinctive double-thump pattern. The lion's nostrils flare as he samples the wind, then does something inexplicable. He steps sideways, clearing a path between Kofi and the approaching gorilla sounds. His muse the lion's tail tip flicks once, twice, then stills. His ears rotate forward as a new sound echoes. Clees remain taut, ready to spring, but his head lowers slightly, not in submission, but something more complex. A bead of clear fluid leaks from the corner of one amber eye, cutting a clean track through the dust on his cheek. The lion's whiskers twitch as the first gorilla scent reaches him. His tongue darts out to wet his nose leather, leaving it momentarily shiny black. Kofi sees the exact moment the big cat makes his decision. The tension leaves his shoulders first, then flows down his spine like a wave. The lion exhales through his nose in a sharp burst that sends Dust Devil spinning. His claws retract with quiet snicks, though his tail remains raised like a battle standard. When he blinks, the nictitating membranes slide horizontally across his eyes, leaving them momentarily opaque and ghostly. The lion's massive head dips once in Kofi's direction, his mane brushing the ground. Up close, Kofi can see each individual hair in that mane, some golden, some near white, all crisscrossed with tiny scars. The big cat's breath smells unexpectedly green, like crushed sage and morning dew. As he turns to leave, his shoulder muscles ripple beneath the fur with each step, the pattern of his rosettes shifting like liquid. His tail flicks once, brushing Kofi's arm with surprising gentleness, leaving behind a few coarse golden hairs stuck to the baby gorilla's damp fur. The lion melts into the sagebrush with unnatural silence for his size. Only the occasional twitch of his tail tip remains visible above the vegetation. Kofi stares at the empty space where the predator stood, his nose filled with fading lion scent, warm and wild and inexplicably comforting. The first gorilla calls ring out, perhaps 100 yards away. Kofi's body shakes with delayed terror, his baby teeth chattering. On the ground before him, 3 perfect paw prints form a triangle in the dust, already filling with water from some hidden spring. The morning sun climbs higher, baking the bloodstains into the canyon floor. The crashing of foliage announces Mara's arrival before Kofi sees her, her massive form bursting through the brush, eyes wild with panic. Her nostrils flare as she takes in the scene. The lingering lion scent, the scattered hyena tracks, the coppery tang of blood in the air. When she spots Kofi, a sound escapes her throat, half sob, half growl, as she scoops him against her chest. Her fingers move in frantic patterns through his fur, checking for injuries, her breath coming in hot bursts against his face. Kofi buries his nose in the familiar musk of her underarm fur, his tiny hands clutching at the thick silver-streaked hair along her sides. A single tear cuts through the dust on Mara's cheek as she rocks him, her heartbeat pounding against his ribs like a war drum slowing to peace. Kofi's whimpers subside into shuddering breaths as Mara's warmth seeps into him. His fingers knead instinctively at the dense fur of her belly, seeking the comfort of infancy. Around them, the rest of the gorilla troop arrives, juveniles peering from behind tree trunks, females grunting in relief. Jabari emerges last, his silverback bulk parting the brush like a battleship through waves. His eyes lock onto the lion's fading paw prints, then lift to scan the canyon walls. When he finally approaches, his knuckles leave craters in the damp earth. He stops just short of touching Kofi, instead placing one massive hand on Mara's shoulder, a silent promise written in calloused skin and shared scars. From the ridge above, a flicker of movement. The lion watches, half hidden behind a twisted juniper. His ear twitches at the gorilla's vocalizations, his tail tip curling and uncurling like a question mark. As Jabari's deep chest rumble echoes through the canyon, the lion's amber eyes reflect the morning sun for one blinding second, then he's gone. Only the trembling branches mark his passage, shedding a few golden hairs that spiral down to land beside the hyena blood. Kofi, still clutched in Mara's arms, sneezes at the lingering dust. Somewhere in the distance, a red-tailed hawk screams, nature's punctuation mark on the impossible morning. The troop forms a living fortress around Kofi as they move out. Juveniles take point, their smaller bodies tense with newfound responsibility. Females flank the sides, eyes scanning every shadow. Jabari brings up the rear, his silverback bulk a moving barrier between his family and the wilderness. Kofi rides Mara's back now, his tiny fingers woven into her fur as she walks. Every few steps, she reaches back to touch his foot, a silent reassurance. The hyena stench fades, replaced by the familiar smells of home. Crushed ferns, gorilla musk, the sweet rot of decaying wood. Somewhere ahead, hidden springs gurgle their welcome. The forest breathes again. Dawn's last shadows retreat as the gorillas ascend into the high pines. Below in the canyon, Scrapper limps along her pack's escape route, her ribs painting the sagebrush red. The lion's tracks vanish into a maze of dry washes, already fading under the relentless sun. But on the canyon wall, unnoticed by any living eye, a single claw mark gleams fresh in the stone, 3 parallel grooves cutting through ancient petroglyphs. The same pattern repeats in the mud where Kofi stood, in the dust of Mara's footprints, even in the frayed ends of Jabari's silver hairs. Not Victor's marks, but something rarer, the fingerprints of an interrupted fate. The desert swallows the story whole. Back at the sleeping nests, the troop's usual bedtime chaos is subdued. Kofi curls against Mara's stomach, his breathing finally steady. Jabari sits sentinel at the clearing's edge, his silhouette blending with the twilight. Far below, the lion pads along a moonlit ridge, his mane glowing blue-white in the dark. 3 ecosystems hold their breath. The gorillas in their treetops, the lion on his bluffs, the hyenas licking wounds in their sandstone dens. The wind carries no laughter tonight, only the creak of branches, and, if one listens closely, the almost sound of crossed paths still vibrating like plucked strings. Somewhere, a butterfly settles. Morning finds Scrapper's pack diminished. Giggles and Twitch are gone. Whether dead or deserted, even the canyon birds don't know. The lion's territory now bears 2 fresh markers. Urine sprayed on a juniper, claw rakes through a decaying saguaro. And high in the gorilla's grove, Kofi wakes to find a foreign scent clinging to his fur, golden and sun-warmed. Stubborn as a secret, Mara grooms him twice as hard, but the smell lingers. Jabari watches the eastern horizon where heat shimmers dance above the rocks. The rules have changed. The ants crawling over last night's bloodstains don't care. The desert records its own history. A single lion hair caught on Cholla cactus. Hyena droppings studded with gorilla fur. A perfect baby handprint preserved in drying mud. These are the only monuments to the morning's madness. The wind scatters them all before noon. When Kofi playfully swats at a butterfly that afternoon, Mara doesn't scold him. She watches, her fingers resting on the old V scar where a leopard learned that gorilla mothers keep different ledgers than nature's accounting. Above them both, Jabari strips bark with unusual calm. His silver back is a mirror for the sun, blinding, untouchable, and for today at least, unbroken. Biologists will later debate the incident. Hyenas don't hunt gorillas. Lions don't protect them. These facts remain carved in textbooks like commandments. Yet the canyon keeps its own records. A patch of sagebrush where no animal will graze for years, a single juniper bearing parallel claw marks too high for any mountain lion, a stretch of sandstone that echoes back roars in the wrong frequency. And if you're very quiet at dusk, when the temperature drops exactly 11 degrees, you might hear it, not laughter, not a growl, but the sound of rules rewriting themselves in the language of dust and desperate choices. The question lingers like lion musk on canyon walls. When Kofi nuzzles Mara's scar that evening, his breath smells inexplicably of sage. Jabari's chest beating that night carries a new rhythm. 3 strong pulses, then 2 soft. Far away, the lion drags a bighorn carcass to an unusual location, the exact spot where a tiny gorilla hand once pressed into mud. The stars turn overhead, indifferent to human labels. Somewhere between instinct and insanity, between predator and protector, the desert holds its breath. The answer, if there is one, sleeps curled in a nest of branches, dreaming of blue wings and golden eyes. Dawn will come without explanations. Your lungs burn like lit gasoline as you sprint through the creosote bushes, except you're not built for this. Human legs stumble where Kofi's compact muscles float. Those hyenas? They don't get tired. Their lean frames are 90% slow-twitch muscle fibers built for marathon chases. Your sweat would blind you, your 2-legged gait would falter, and when Scrapper's 1,100 psi jaws clamped your femur, the sound would be exactly like a green branch snapping. The desert doesn't care about your IQ. Out here, survival is measured in millimeters of tooth enamel and milliseconds of reaction time. That moment of decision wasn't conscious thought. It was ancient wiring firing all at once. Maybe the lion saw his own lost cub in Kofi's posture. Maybe the hyena stench triggered territorial rage. Or maybe, when the wind shifted just right, some Pleistocene instinct recognized a common enemy. His neurons didn't debate ethics. They executed a split-second cost/benefit analysis written in generations of blood. You'd still be stuck on why while the hyenas tore out your throat. Nature's choices are written in scar tissue, not philosophy books. The rules of nature shattered that morning. Predators became protectors. Prey stood its ground. Every law of the wild bent, then broke, in those chaotic seconds. Biologists would later argue over the how and why, but the truth was written in the dust. Something impossible had happened, and no textbook could undo it. That blurred snapshot told only half the story. What it couldn't capture, the lion's hesitation, the hyena's sudden doubt, the way the wind itself seemed to hold its breath before the charge. Some moments are too vast for a single frame. Their cackles weren't joy, they were weapons. A sound designed to freeze blood and cloud instinct. But this time, their laughter hit a wall. The lion didn't flinch. The gorilla didn't falter. And in that silence between echoes, the hunt became something else entirely. Before the terror, there was only a butterfly, a flicker of blue against the dawn, and a baby's delight as he gave chase. Childhood ends fast in the wild. 1 second, he was playing. The next, he was running for his life. The canyon had been quiet. The gorillas foraging, the wind lazy in the sagebrush. No warnings. No omens. Just the cruel truth of nature. Disaster doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives. It was just a flash of wings, innocent, fragile. But its path crossed a far darker one. By the time Kofi realized his mistake, the shadows were already moving wrong. The chase was on. They came like ghosts, no sound, no warning. Circling, cutting off escape. This wasn't hunger. It was a game, and they'd played it 1,000 times before. But today, the rules changed. No one saw him. Not the hyenas. Not Kofi. Not even the wind. But when the moment came, he was already moving, a golden streak between death and deliverance. Some saviors don't hesitate. They just strike. A low-frequency tremor rippled through the canyon floor. Not earthquake, but silverback. Jabari's 450-pound charge registered 0.3 on the Richter scale as he bulldozed through creosote bushes. Every living creature froze mid-motion. Kofi's tears suspended on his cheeks, Scrapper's drool hanging from yellowed teeth, even the lion's whiskers vibrating like tuning forks. In that suspended second, the desert held its breath. Then reality snapped back with the sound of splintering juniper wood as Jabari's fist impacted a boulder, sending spiderweb fractures through stone. The message was written in seismic waves. The king had arrived. The lion didn't flee, didn't attack. He did something far more astonishing, stepped sideways. His 500-pound body fluidly repositioned to create a corridor between charging Jabari and the hyenas. Every muscle fiber locked in perfect tension, not submission, but tactical alliance. Scrapper's pack experienced something their evolutionary programming had no response for. Two apex predators working in unspoken tandem. The desert's rulebook burned in that moment, its ashes scattering across blood-stained sand. Somewhere overhead, a turkey vulture banked sharply, as if even death needed to recalculate. It wasn't their jaws or stamina that nearly won the day, it was their voices. As Jabari charged, the pack unleashed an ultrasonic scream at 18,000 hertz, a frequency that triggers vertigo in primates. Kofi's inner ear fluids vibrated violently, making him stumble. But the lion? His rounded ear canals filtered the noise like built-in earplugs. What scientists later reconstructed from audio recordings was chilling. The hyenas weren't just hunting. They were weaponizing physics against a baby's biology. Only one creature in that canyon had countermeasures older than their tricks. Neuroscience suggests the choice wasn't conscious. When the lion's amygdala processed Kofi's whimpers, it fired mirror neurons identical to those activating when hearing his own cubs. But there's more. His pupils dilated at the specific 280 Hz frequency of gorilla distress calls, a pitch matching lion cub's separation cries. The hyena musk flooding his vomeronasal organ tipped the scales from observation to action. His attack wasn't altruism, it was primal mathematics, lion hatred of hyenas, plus false cub recognition, risk assessment. The desert cares nothing for motives, only outcomes. 3 months later, Kofi still startles at butterfly shadows. Jabari patrols wider territories. The lion's mane shows new silver streaks. And at the canyon's edge where it all happened, something unexpected grows, a lone wildflower sprouting from cracked earth, its roots nourished by iron-rich soil. Not redemption, not a lesson, just life insisting on continuation. The desert neither forgives nor forgets. It simply continues. Press play again. The hunt never ends. The miracle is that we get to witness it at all.